All right, here's the recap for Thursday Night Football. We got the Detroit Lions beating the Green Bay Packers 34-20. Anything that the Detroit Lions wanted to do, they did. Their run game, especially, it was just pretty much off the charts. As I mentioned earlier in one of my previous videos, it's like somebody's always running for 100 plus yards against that Packers defense. And what happened? It happened. What happened today? David Montgomery, 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns. For some reason, no matter what they do, the run defense is always terrible, no matter how good or bad their defense is as a whole. Then you got Jared Goff, a cool 19 for 28, 210 yards through the air, a touchdown pass, and an interception. That interception was very early in the game, but then he became pretty much game manager, Jared Goff. Then you got the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love. He went 23 of 36, 246 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And his last interception was very back-breaking, especially when it came to them in the red zone, trying to cut the lead to 10. But, as you know, that didn't happen. But Romeo Doubs had himself a game with 9 receptions for 95 yards. In our first London game of the season, we had the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Atlanta Falcons, where the Jaguars pretty much handled the Falcons 23-7. And London is pretty much their second home because they have a lot, and I mean a lot of Jaguars fans, and they show up. First things first though, Bijan Robinson still playing like a stud with 14 carries and 105 yards. Jonnu Smith was surprisingly the leading receiver for Desmond Ridder with 6 receptions and 95 yards. His only touchdown pass, Desmond Ridder that is, was to Drake London. But Ridder, he really went 19 of 31, 191 yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. In a minute, it's looking like they're about to put Taylor Heineke in the game if he keeps putting up these type of performances, because now it's like 2 weeks where you don't even like score double-digit points, because last week you were held to 6, now you're held to 7. Then you got Trevor Lawrence, 23 of 30, 207 yards, a touchdown, and his touchdown pass was to Calvin Ridley against his former team. Then you also got Travis Etienne, 20 carries for 55 yards. Obviously, not a strong game for him. You have Christian Kirk, 8 receptions for 84 yards. This was pretty much all Falcons. I mean, not all Falcons. It was all Jaguars. And especially when they got into the red zone, the Atlanta Falcons, when they got into the red zone, they just couldn't do anything. Every time they tried, I mean, they got that one touchdown, Drake London, but then they tried again, but he was out of bounds. The Jaguars still have a lot of improvement to go. If this was a real team, they probably wouldn't have won this game, but props to y'all. Man, this game was wild. It was wild. We got the Rams hanging on by a thread, beating the Indianapolis Colts 29-23. And honestly, that shouldn't have even been the final score. You got the Rams, who blew a 23-point lead, then pretty much clutched it. The Rams fans, y'all better appreciate Puka Nacua, because this man is really the Cooper Kupp for y'all team. And honestly, y'all might be a little scary once Cooper Kupp comes back. So I'm pretty sure he'll be back next week for Philly. But first things first though, y'all were in control the entire first half and pretty much the beginning of the third quarter. It's like y'all just had everything going y'all way. Nothing could really go wrong until Anthony Richardson and them boys started to feel confidence because y'all let them in the game. Matthew Stafford threw a crucial interception that led to one of their touchdowns. You also got Anthony Richardson rushing in for a couple of touchdowns himself and throwing a touchdown pass. This man, Anthony Richardson, is really out here showing that he's really going to be a problem and is pretty much this generation's Cam Newton. But Anthony Richardson, he scored 23. Well, Anthony Richardson and the Colts scored 23 points straight, that which set it to overtime. But one thing that pretty much cost them this game and could have avoided overtime had they had, the right play calls and people doing what they, are supposed to do. Even though even though there was overtime, before we even got to overtime, it was like a minute. It was like after the 2-minute warning, and the Colts had the ball at a tie game, 23-all. They had a chance to win the game, but I guess all that mojo ran out when they were trying to go for the win. But the Rams, on the other hand, they didn't let the Colts touch the ball at all in overtime, because they realized, like, they let their foot off the brake. They let their foot off the gas and just went in for the kill. Puka Nacua, 9 receptions, 163 yards, and a touchdown. Matthew Stafford threw for 319 yards on 27 of 40 passing with a touchdown and an interception. All I'm saying is that the Rams, they're sneaky. They're like a cool wild card team, 5th or 6th seed, but they're very sneaky. And all other teams in the NFL should watch out for the Rams. I know they beat the Colts, but hey, any given Sunday. Whew. All right. The Baltimore Ravens went into Cleveland and bodied the Cleveland Browns. One thing I did not know about this game is that Deshaun Watson was injured, and I expected, him to play. But outside of that, I expected the Cleveland defense to show up like how they have been doing pretty much all season except for today. You got Lamar Jackson pretty much having his way with this defense. He threw 15 and 19 for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. And both touchdowns went to Mark Andrews, who had 5 receptions for 80 yards. The Cleveland backup, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he had a terrible game. And granted, he was going against a solid, okay defense in the Baltimore Ravens. They're not a good defensive team, but today, they picked on a rookie, so what would you expect? But DTR went 19 of 36, 121 yards and 3 interceptions. And Amari Cooper only had 1 catch for 16 yards. Good thing the Browns are going into a bye week, because the way that these injuries are starting to hit them too, it's not looking good. But I expected more from their defense because of what they did the past couple of weeks, only giving up 1 offensive touchdown, and today they gave up 4. So they can do better. Than you got Lamar Jackson and them boys. They roster hanging on by a thread, but I like what I saw from them. So good job, Ravens. All right, so first you have the first of 2 tank bowls. You have the Minnesota Vikings going into Carolina and beating the Panthers. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins was definitely under a lot of pressure in this game. Literally and figuratively. Because if they would have started 0-4, I'm telling you right now, some changes would have been done. Kirk Cousins, he had a mediocre game, 12 of 19, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And those 2 touchdowns went to Justin Jefferson, who has 6 receptions for 85 yards. The Vikings' protection, they allowed him to get sacked twice. But even when he wasn't getting sacked, he was definitely under a lot of pressure and he couldn't get much going. As for Bryce Young, 25 of 32, 204 yards, not a touchdown nor interception. Bryce Young was definitely under a lot of pressure. My boy got sacked 5 times. He couldn't do much. It was just like too much for him to handle. And the thing is, like, the Panthers for sure have to get that offensive line fixed, because how do you expect him to flourish if he is under immense pressure every time? That's something that they need to fix. And this team, I know they're bad in rebuilding, but the first step, honestly, is that offensive line, so he can be better. Okay, so Bengals and Titans. This is another ugly game from the Cincinnati Bengals. Ever since Joe Burrow got paid, that man has been playing like poop. At this point, this man should be locked up for stealing money from the Cincinnati Bengals. Same way Blake Griffin did the Detroit Pistons. Joe Burrow, 20 of 30, 165 yards. Outside of him playing like poop, you can clearly tell that man is not healthy. He should not be playing right now. And Jamar Chase did say, like, if Joe ain't 100%, he don't want him playing because he always wants his quarterback at his best. Joe Burrow is definitely not at his best. Ever since he signed that contract, he has not been playing good. Jamar Chase, he had 7 receptions for 73 yards. I mean, it didn't matter because Tennessee was just going in. Ryan Tannehill, 18 to 25, 240 yards, a touchdown and an interception. You got Derrick Henry returning to his king status, 22 carries, 122 yards, and a touchdown. And DeAndre Hopkins was the leading receiver for the Titans with 4 receptions and 63 yards. This game pretty much shows that Joe Burrow is not healthy. He needs some games off, or else this injury is going to derail the Cincinnati Bengals season. And as of now, it's looking like they're not going to repeat or go three-peat as AFC North champions. And their season is looking real iffy right now. Then the Tennessee Titans, they're bringing back life into their season. They scored 21 points in the second quarter, but then only had 3 points in the first and third quarter and didn't do anything in the fourth. Granted, because they didn't really need to. So then when it comes to total yards, the Titans really won that 400 yards to the Bengals 211. All I know is that Cincinnati, they really need to get it together. I thought this was going to be a bounce back game for Joe Burrow. This man has either played garbage or mid. So Burrow, somehow, some way, we need you to start balling out, my boy. Alright, now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went into New Orleans and beat the Saints 26-9. The New Orleans Saints could not get anything going. Nothing was going well for them at all. You got Derek Carr, 23, 37, and 127 yards, not a touchdown nor an interception. One thing I did keep saying, and it came out to be true, is whenever Taysom Hill is at the quarterback position, he is so freaking predictable. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers keyed into that. Taysom Hill only had 4 rushes for 10 yards. He averaged 2.5 on the ground. It's about time somebody understood the assignment, which Tampa Bay did. Alvin Kamara came back, but 11 carries for 51 yards. I feel like that man, he just has to like work his way back into his groove, because everybody knows how Alvin Kamara can get. Then you got Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had 25 of 32 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Baker Mayfield played way better than he did against Philly last week, and it definitely showed. Chris Godwin, 8 receptions for 114 yards. He did his thing out there, even when Mike Evans went down with an injury. I didn't know what kind of injury it was, but it was an injury nonetheless. But good job, Tampa Bay. Just keep playing good football, and I believe they are now solo on top of the NFC South. Bills and Dolphins. This was an absolute clinic by the Buffalo Bills. They were obviously at home and took care of business. This game was close to begin with. It looked like it was going to be like a close game through on out. They were going blow for blow for a little bit in the first half until they started to pull away. One crucial part that pretty much stopped Miami's momentum in that first half was the 2 fumbles by Raheem Mostert, which the Bills defense was able to pretty much punch out, and just Josh Allen going off, turning into Superman. Josh Allen had a phenomenal game, and he could not be stopped. He only had 4 incompletions this entire game, throwing for 320, 4 touchdowns on the Dolphins defense. And Miami, you weren't playing Denver anymore. So, yeah, y'all are 3-1, but now, hopefully, that y'all have taken this first L, y'all can regroup and pretty much figure out what you can do better. And one thing that needs to be better is that defense. So, good win, Buffalo. Next up, Bears and Broncos, which was a game that was one heck of a turn of events. You got the Broncos beating the Bears 31-28, but the way we got there is kind of weird. But any given Sunday. So you got the Broncos go down the field, score a touchdown, then give up 21 straight points in the second quarter. This man, Justin Fields, pretty much balled out for the first time since he's been drafted. And I think this was the first time in his NFL career he's thrown for 300 plus passing yards. He had 4 touchdowns, which is a career high. And he was just going off. He was, making all the right plays. And one thing that really benefited him was getting the ball to DJ Moore, who had 8 receptions for 131 yards and 1 of his touchdowns. And that touchdown by DJ Moore was magnificent. Then, all of a sudden, towards the end of the third quarter, they were leading 28-7. Then the wheels came off as Denver and Russell Wilson started to cook up a comeback. Russ got a touchdown to Courtland Sutton. Then literally on the next series, I think it was like a play or two after they had just got their touchdown, the Broncos defense stepped up and forced Justin Fields to fumble. But the thing is, Justin Fields, as soon as he turned around from that play action, he could have easily just went down because there was enough time, but he panicked and threw the ball, which caused a fumble by the defender smacking his arm and allowing his teammate to scoop and score. Justin Fields, even though he still had a chance to win the game, and he was driving down the field just to throw a back-breaking interception. This man had the game of his life, and still it comes in a loss. Bears fans, get ready for Caleb Williams, or get ready to trade the number 1 pick again. I don't know. Y'all are just... y'all Bears team, that is just very unfortunate. And as for the Denver Broncos, you had a good win, but next up y'all got the New York Jets. So, good luck with that, especially after all that stuff Sean Payton was talking about on Nathaniel Hackett back in July. We'll see whether that bites him or Was Peyton really spitting? But we'll find out later. Alright, next we have the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat the Washington Commanders in a 34-31 game, which was pretty much the best game of the week. The Eagles and Commanders, because it's normally, when it comes to divisional games, it's always going to be close, or unless one team is truly bad and the other one is truly phenomenal, then you have the rare blowouts. But this one was a game to watch. Right now, the Eagles, yeah, they might have won, but it's like they're leaving a lot. It's like they're leaving a lot out. It's not like pretty much how they were last year due to how dominant they were and the ways they were winning. But this one, it's like they're not as dominant, but they're still finding different ways to win this game. Then you got the Commanders. Definitely a bounce back game for them. You got Sam Howell balling out 29-41, 290 and a touchdown. And that touchdown pass was to send the game to overtime with 1 second left on the game clock. It was just both teams flying on all cylinders. You got the defenses stepping up at times. Definitely the Eagles defense stepped up during overtime to give their offense a chance. And the offense came in clutch because after the Commanders defense took them out of field goal range in overtime, they were able to get like a sliver of that yardage back to get into field goal range, and it was able to win it. This was just a pretty fun game to watch. A.J. Brown went off for 9 receptions and 175 yards and a touchdown. That is a good, very good game for him. And hopefully he stops crying on the sideline. So, who knows? Looks like I got my upset of the week correct. And boy, did they ever deliver. You got the Houston Texans beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. That boy C.J. Stroud showed out. 16-30, 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Nico Collins, 7 receptions for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Them boys were balling. That defense was flying on all cylinders, getting to Kenny Pickett, but unfortunately Kenny Pickett did leave around like the end of the third quarter with a knee injury, or maybe fourth quarter, one of the two. But all I know is that he had a knee injury, so prayers up to him, and hopefully like he is better. But one thing that I've been hearing about for the past couple of days about Steelers fans begging for their offensive coordinator Matt Canada to get fired due to their offense. And honestly, the way that Pittsburgh offense was moving, I have to agree, because the BS that boy was calling, bruh, it's like I could call that on Madden rookie mode. It was terrible. And one thing that is like, how is it that Najee Harris only had 1 reception for 32 yards and he was the leading receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers team? The leading receiver. It was just terrible. Like that, the entire offense was terrible. I don't know how, like they barely managed 225 total yards. It is just like, how do y'all? I don't know. The Pittsburgh Steelers are just about, I don't know, terrible kind of understatement. It's just they're garbage. That offense was not it. And the defense definitely didn't show up at all. Didn't really provide pressure for C.J. Stroud, because as you can see, C.J. Stroud was dicing them boys up. Cut them up like some sushi, a California roll, something. It was just terrible for the Steelers. But hey, C.J. Stroud, keep doing your thing. The way you and Anthony Richardson playing right now, y'all futures are looking very, very bright. I'm looking forward to see y'all QB battle for years to come. So, good job. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders, who traveled to SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West showdown. The Chargers, they were pretty much flying on all cylinders in the first half. You had Justin Herbert going off a little bit. Josh Palmer catching 3 balls for 77 yards. And still, I don't know when Austin Eckler is going to come back, but Joshua Kelly, man, like I keep saying, he should not be touching an NFL field at all with his type of production. 17 carries for 65 yards. Come on, bro. Like, you got 17 carries, but you only managed to get 65 yards. Then you still you got the reigning rushing champion, 17 carries for 58 yards. At least he had a touchdown. And the funny part is he was the leading receiver on the Raiders with 81 yards on 8 receptions. This game was pretty weird, to say the least. They both scored touchdowns in the first quarter. Then you got the Chargers just blitzing them in the second quarter with 17 points. Then they didn't score any other points after that. Then the Raiders pretty much made it a game towards the end. But when they had the opportunity to tie the game, Aiden O'Connell threw a crucial interception to pretty much seal the loss. But the biggest loser in this game to me is that Raiders offensive line. And especially on whatever side Khalil Mack was lining up on, because that boy had 6 sacks on the day. 6 sacks, one shy of the NFL record. And Khalil Mack ain't no joke. He's just showing that it's the return of the Mac. And he back for real, for real. So good job, Chargers. Next up, you got the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Arizona Cardinals, where they beat the Cardinals 35-16. In the first quarter, the first half, it was the Christian McCaffrey show. Christian McCaffrey was just doing everything. He had 4 total touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. Christian McCaffrey was just something special. Just something special, and I'm glad I witnessed it. I don't mean to glaze. I hope y'all don't put that as glazing, but hey, McCaffrey, he really went off. 20 carries for 106 yards. Like I said, 3 rushing touchdowns. And then you have Brandon Ayuk coming back from injury with 6 receptions and 148 yards. And what people need to do is stop talking about Brock Purdy and saying that he can't throw deep balls when pretty much all game, all of Brandon Ayuk's receptions were literally deep. But then, he had those occasional little checkdowns to Christian McCaffrey, but still. Then on the Cardinals side, they were fighting just because they were like, so what if they the San Francisco 49ers? Like, we still gonna show out and we still gonna play to the best of our ability in their eyes. You got Joshua Dobbs, 28 for 41, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and not an interception. Josh Dobbs actually played really, really well against this 49er defense. This man led a 99-yard drive that led to a touchdown. And not gonna lie, because at that time I cut the lead to 5 points and they just needed a 2-point conversion, he kind of had me shook for a minute. But hey, I mean, it's still any given Sunday, and I wasn't trying to end up like the Cowboys losing to the Cardinals. And then you had James Conner with 11 carries for 52 yards. That man, he kept trying to switch fields or whatever, or like move the momentum, like run one side, then try to run to the other, because the defense, they always swarmed him. So on the run game, I feel like the 49ers defense did well, but it's just all the missed opportunities to get a stop on 3rd down, which had me upset and had me irritated. And then you have Marquise Brown with 7 receptions and 96 yards. He did his thing. But Deebo Samuel, he should definitely have a better game next week, because he had no targets and I think probably like 3 yards rushing. That's pretty much all he had. And, at times, certain stars don't get used, but for different games and different strategies, they will be getting used. So I trust Kyle Shanahan, but one thing I am a little concerned about, but I hope it gets fixed fast is that defense, because you should not be letting Josh Dobbs lead a 99-yard touchdown drive. That's just the one thing. That was like the only knock on the defense, and getting stops on third down. And Nick Bosa, please start getting sacks. Please. Now, the beatdown of the week. You got the Dallas Cowboys hosting the New England Patriots. The Cowboys demolished the New England Patriots 38-3. There was just nothing, I mean nothing, the Patriots can do positive in this game. There was nothing, and the Cowboys defense, because they were so mad that they lost to Arizona, they just beat the crap out of the Patriots. And honestly, ain't nobody too mad about the Patriots getting beat up after them pretty much beating up on the NFL for Tom Brady's tenure. But Dak Prescott, 28 of 34, 261, and a touchdown. He balled out today. He pretty much balled out. Then you got Tony Pollard. He had a so-so game, 11 carries, 47 yards. I mean, there's not really much to say, but like, the Patriots can do nothing. And the Cowboys were literally the better team. There's nothing they could do, and they handed Bill Belichick his worst loss as an NFL head coach. So, I mean, kudos to y'all Cowboys, but let's see what y'all do against San Fran next week. Next up, you got the New York Jets, who hosted the Kansas City Chiefs, where the Chiefs came out on top 23-20. And honestly, you know, everybody, we love the game of football, but if I had $1 for every time they put a shot of Taylor Swift up for 2 weeks on camera, I'd probably be as rich as her right now, or maybe even richer. But that's neither here nor there. Patrick Mahomes had an extremely sloppy game, 18 of 30, 203 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And it really should have been 3 interceptions, but the rest were on something else. But I'll get back to that in a little bit. Isaiah Pacheco, he had a pretty solid game, 20 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown run, I don't know why, but it's like the way he runs is like when a toddler gets caught for having his hand in the cookie jar. I don't know why, but every time I see him running down the field, that's just like what I see. Then, you know, you got Travis Kelce, 6 receptions for 60 yards. Thank God he didn't get a touchdown, honestly, because they would have just been showing Taylor Swift 50 million times like they haven't been doing already, which the NFL, for some reason, put Taylor Swift as their banner. No idea why. But Zach Wilson, this was his coming out party, his coming out game, where he had 28. He went 28 of 39, 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes. That is something I did not see him doing, especially last week, how he struggled against the New England Patriots. But you know, Zach Wilson, he's starting to like mature and get his confidence up. So that's pretty good for him. Then you got Allen Lazard, who is his leading receiver with 3 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. And one thing that we did not enjoy about this game is the refs interfering with the ending again. The Kansas City Chiefs had the ball with like 6 and some change to go. 6 minutes and some change to go. Yeah, they had the ball with 6 minutes and some change to go. And the referees just kept getting in the way, throwing penalties after penalties, pretty much costing the Jets to get the ball back. And all of a sudden, they want to throw a flag on the Jets for saying defensive holding on Sauce Gardner after his teammate had just got the interception. But yet, on a 3rd and 20 where Mahomes is scrambling, you can clearly see a Jets defender getting held. People, and I agree with them, they're saying that this is similar to the ending of Super Bowl 57. And I don't know what it is, but for some reason, when it's crunch time and things are getting tough for the Kansas City Chiefs, the refs are always there to aid Mahomes and the Chiefs. But I mean, y'all got the win for now, but I'm calling it right now though. The Kansas City Chiefs will not represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. They will not represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. It's definitely going to be like Buffalo or Baltimore. But definitely not Kansas City. Or even Miami. They might, but definitely not Kansas City. So, I mean, enjoy your win for now, Kansas. And part 2 of Beatdown of the Week, you have the Seattle Seahawks traveling to MetLife Stadium, smacking the New York Giants. The New York Giants, my goodness. I don't know how y'all just continue to play like garbage. That offensive line did Daniel Jones no wonders. This man got sacked 11 times by the Seahawks. 11. How is that O-line, which is supposed to be filled with professionals, whether they called it makeshift or not, how are y'all allowing 11 sacks as professionals? That is just crazy. And the Seahawks offense, they didn't really have to do much because it was their defense. And this man, Daniel Jones, he had like a good drive going down, and people in the crowd, like you can hear them, they're cheering and like, yeah, like we about to get this touchdown or whatever. And this man throws a 97-yard pick six. A 97-yard pick six, bro. Daniel Jones, bro, count your days, because all of a sudden you wanted to hold the ball against the Seahawks, but you didn't want to do that for the 49ers though. I'm just mad because y'all made the Seahawks look like the 2019 Chiefs in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl. Well, on the defensive side. But still, it's just like, it makes no sense. And all I know is that in New York, there definitely has to be some changes. Yeah, so Seattle, y'all still don't impress me. Y'all have to beat a contender or two, not even a contender. Y'all have to beat contenders, about like 4 of them, to actually make me a believer. Like, okay, the Seahawks might do something, but no. If anything, if it came down to it, y'all would miss out on the playoffs due to that tiebreaker against the Rams. But we will find out.